So if we if we try to communicate something, start a campaign that says now you need to stop drinking these kind of things, Coca-Cola, because there's too much sugar in it, and that only creates more food consumption. Well, that's something pretty hard to change. But the next question then is, what is the changeable root cause behind that we might be able to change? That's usually we want finds a simpler solution, an easier solution.
But as a parent, all of us as a parent have stopped our children drinking Coca-Cola in our educated homes.
Mm.
Is that correct or not? All of us on this panel here.
Yeah, here.
Fizzy. Yeah. The rest of the world is pushing it, and government, how come McDonald's gives you free Coca-Cola? Yeah. How do you want to drink? And that is a citizens' campaign, like we did a campaign with Nike, because they were using children to make those footballs. And that overnight pushed Nike to stop it. So
well, the trick to me is to find what can make the difference. Then it is successful, but that's quite a challenge. But if it is done, we will avoid wasting time, effort, or money on things that are too difficult to change.
But the Nike campaign was 2, 3, 4 people who said the football should not be made by anybody under the age of 6 because they have nimble fingers to do that. And it stopped. It stopped overnight.
Okay. Jean-Paul?
Yes, and also Viviana, because she raised her hand, and which is a common practice in other things to raise the hand. If everybody knows how to raise their hand, and everybody knows who wants to talk. One of the things I would like to introduce here is that when I started with the air quality issue in my region, when I started moralizing about everything that we do bad about air quality, I did not receive support by anybody, because everybody had a certain type of excuse why they were using cars, why they were flying airplanes, why they were doing burning up the stuff that they were doing. So instead of moralizing about the issues, instead of criticizing people, we tried to figure out how we could get people into a healthy attitude. And we started to invite the people to actually work on a healthy way. We started to find arguments why the people should go on a bicycle, why the people could innovate their heating systems at home, how we should. And with that process, we actually managed to get the institutions on board, which started to talk the same message. So when we talk about hunger, we should not talk about hunger, but the lack of availability of food and the possibility of creating food by the people themselves. If we talk about, we have to go to the opposite of the criticism and of the problem. Maybe we can then evolve into eradicating the problem by creating, focusing not on the solution, but on the other side of it. That is my contribution. That's also my experience here, that I get much more support by institutions if we go into something they can handle too. Instead of being critical why they don't handle it, because they have not done it, because they just don't have the capacity of doing it all by themselves. I leave the word to you, Marion. You were doing well.
Yeah.
Great job.
Yeah, Bibiane and Jaime wanted to say something. Bibiane?
No, I just didn't know how to lower my hand, but now I figured out. But I can give you 2 cents on what you're saying, because part of the problem is in advertising, yes, but other part of the problem, and I imagine most of you are European based at the moment, is that in different economies, we have different laws for production in food. And actually in Brazil, it's harder to lose weight because we have flour in almost everything. We have flour in chocolate, in cheese, and that's a regulatory problem. And just to bring an insider view, because I do work a lot with Coca-Cola, and even though they are an evil corp in the eyes of most, I work with people that just like us participate in discussions just like us. And they've changed all their portfolio. And even though they do still sell the evil black liquid, they are now not Coca-Cola anymore. They are Beverages for Life, and they're transferring all their portfolio into juices and water, and even thinking about how to do water in a sustainable way, circular economy, blah, blah, blah. So I just wanted to bring some perspective. And I think it adds up to Jean-Paul's point of not pointing fingers, but trying to work together, because behind Nestle and behind Unilever and behind Coca-Cola, there are people just like us.
Thank you. Jaime?
Yes, I understand the point that Jean-Paul and Viviana have just made about trying not to be over critics with several actors, because maybe that would be a cause of avoiding cooperation, or making creating an environment that they could feel attacked, or these kind of things, that they would go out from the negotiating table and these kind of things. Okay, that's fine. I understand that. Nevertheless, I think that it's necessary to talk about the consequences, not just the potential consequences of many actions, many consumption habits, and many other things, but the nowadays consequences, and the consequences that we have been living through for some time, for decades, even decades. And yes, it's good to point to the positive side. It's good to think that a different future is possible, and these kind of things. It's good to motivate people to change in a positive way. But in my opinion, at least, I wouldn't avoid to talk about consequences, because we need both things. We need negative incentives and positive incentives. But another thing, I think that if I like many things that all the things that you all mentioned in this meeting, and there are a lot of things that, in my opinion, could be combined. We could use the strengths of the different points that you are sharing. Just an example. In the nice thing that Jean-Paul sent us through Gmail, this explanation of what Sustainocracy is and these kind of things, I think that's a good basis. That's a very good basis. It's a good common ground to start to climb up. And I would emphasize a very important word, which is awareness. If we could become influencers that spread awareness worldwide in different languages, with different strategies, visual strategies, films, conferences, making more easy to approach as scientific papers and these kind of things. But if we use that as a goal to become influencers in sustainability awareness and whatever it involves, which is a lot. I agree that we have to prioritize topics. I also do agree that we need to learn from previous experiences. We need to find out where the things could be stocked. But also, as Bibiana said, we could use the same tools, for example, the same communication or marketing tools that have proven to be very successful for much. How can I say it? For campaigns that have not a minimum percentage of the value that these kind of ideas that we would like to share have, and they have been successful. We can learn a lot from that. We can use innovative tools. We can use data, big data, and these kind of things. So let's play with the same tools. And the idea of creating an army of allies that she mentioned, in a good sense, I totally agree with that.
Jean-Paul, you wanted to react?
Yes, well, awareness is a complex issue. we do tend to live in our own tunnel vision. There are many dimensions to life, and certain people have gone into opening up our mind into new dimensions that other people don't understand yet. And no matter how you try to tell them, they don't. And if you are in an institution, I've been leading an institution with very big, with 2,000 people, personnel and everything. And my focus was on that 2,000 personnel, the productivity of the personnel. And I didn't have a clue about the consequences of my activities on a global situation until I had to make my decision. And suddenly my mind opened to that. Now, so the mind opening process can go through various phases, but making an objective like us, creating awareness, like Mahendra did last Sunday with Jojo's speech, for instance, saying to the people that if you continue damaging the planet, there will be a law defining that as a genocide. That is a warning that will open up the eyes of certain people that one day they might get into jail because of continuity there. That is an awareness statement. That is from the negative energy point of view. From a positive point of view, awareness, it is working with the people who already have the state of awareness that you are looking for, working, surrounding with those people and creating the right examples so that people who do not have the awareness do have the feeling they wish to follow. And that is the situation I would like to also discuss here, that what can we do to make visible those positive steps that people have undertaken. I came across a film yesterday that was made in 2016 or something, about 150 communities that in America that defined their auto right to build up their own governance and push away the government which was institutionalized because they were just going with big industries, and they pushed it away and they set up their own communities. Well, it is a thing that if we share these kind of issues and people say, hey, this exists, it can be done, I can do it, maybe they stand up and do it. People have come to Eindhoven and they looked at what I was doing here and they said, oh, I didn't realize it existed. Now I really realize that it exists. I want it too. Then another difficulty starts because of implementation, but at least the awareness is, so the awareness, what you're talking about, Jaime, is an extremely complex process of breaking up old paradigms in the mind of people, and they have to be in the right situation to actually manage to get that, either through criticism or through a threat or through the positive example. I don't know what the rest of thinks about that, but that is my personal experience.
Yeah, if I may add
Okay,
very
sorry,
fast.
Hyman.
Sure. Sorry.
Mahendra,
Sure.
we have to raise hands, otherwise.
I just wanted to say that I'm in Bali. The laws of the country are passed in the capital city. But in the island of Bali, every village has what they call a banjar, which is the council of the village. And they interpret the laws that are passed and they implement it as they wish, often in contradiction to the headquarters, which is similar to taking governance into their hands. So such communities exist, and that's been the case since the beginning of time in Bali. So that's a functioning system. There are no widows have to live alone. No children are orphans. No elderly is hungry. No neighbor is hungry in the villages. In the capital city is different. And so that going back to this community feeling where there's community supports, and when the community shares, you can solve every problem you have.
Okay, thank you. Heiner, you were...
Yes, we looked into governance structures. We know about the Talanoa process. We know how indigenous cultural communities, like with Elinor Ostrom, really studied how governance works in a valley or works on an island, where they have certain ways to not have everybody come in and have a big mouth without knowing the situation. We talk here about informed decision-making and consent, and being aware what it is about. So if you come as an alien into that valley, then you cannot really help as a stakeholder with informed decisions. So I think in regard to what John Paul just said, we have to come to an agreement even beyond the scope of our valley or our island when we are inflicting on these other scales. And I want to show you something. If you make me co-host.
Now you can share it because everybody can share.
Okay. I want to show you what UNU and UIA tabled before Rio. It is the intersectorial strategic dilemma of sustainability dialogue. And it is very vicious and it's really perplexing. But if we don't have an idea, what are the screws we can change something, then always someone is taking on one issue and like demagogy, manipulating the rest. But when we can say, like this consumer issues of Coca-Cola or whatever certain stuff in normal food and alimentation, then we can really show that we have seen it in detail and in the broader context. And I just wanted to make you aware, as Jean-Paul mentioned, this extra dimensions. Yes, we have to make this cognitive leapfrogging. Over.
Thank you. And Jaime?
Just to add something. Yes, I mean, I have an uncle, just to explain it more with an example, that usually gives me a lot of advices. And in terms of educating children, my children, for example, he always says, words are important, but in a way, but giving an example is much more important. Yeah.
I agree.
So I in previous meetings, I have mentioned the importance of trying to exert leadership in both ideas and actions. And in fact, if I would have to choose, yes, for me, for example, it could be easier, or for everyone, it could be easier to try to exert a leadership in ideas, because you don't have to invest a lot of energy outside your place or whatever. But actions are very important. If we do not engage in projects, or at least if we do not invite people that are engaged in projects that can show good examples that could be replicated, taking into consideration the cultural and context differences of every place and these kind of things. But we need to put examples that things can be different, can be done different.
Yes, thank you. Yasmin, would you like to say something? Did I see that well?
No, but I can add.
Oh, okay.
I guess I was just holding a question. So I guess our question is, why haven't things changed? But my question was, what are the social conditions that people are seeking nurturing, substance, whatever they're seeking outside of themselves? Because it's the choices that are causing the consequences. But if we don't unroot the social behaviors and the reasons behind those social behaviors, they will just come back with a different face on. People will just then do that. So yeah, it's understanding the social conditions behind the social behaviors that are the reason that clever marketing then encapsulates people. As an example, a recent application, which is called, I don't know if anybody knows the person. Oh, I'll just say it. It's Positive Intelligence. It's an app. It's sold to all these coaches. They're going to bring it across corporations. But when you look at the underlying, yes, the message is very cleverly sold. However, it's just a means to addict somebody for an app. And the aim is to make people more positive, whereas it's not a consequence of it's gearing at community. People are feeling isolated. They don't feel happy. Whereas if you really wanted to impact how one feels, you would let them accept the good with the bad. So yes, it's okay to feel emotion. It's not that the emotion is the problem, it's the management of it. So I guess, yeah, the social conditions behind people's behaviors, which is what are causing the consequences that we are seeing right now.
Okay, thank you. What comes to me is there are two kind of roads. We can bring sustainocracy as a whole, or are we going to choose the values, to bring the values to the people? And then that is a form of sustainocracy, because what I hear, the values are touching the people. That is what makes people move. So I find a little bit confusion here in the group about bringing sustainocracy out, but also the good example and the values. Yes, Jean-Paul?
Yes, I understand that confusion, but as Jasmine says, the social conditions of the people condition their behavior often. If I get on the radio or on the television at 8 o'clock in the morning, as I mentioned this morning, and I mentioned about air quality and leave your car at home and do the things and be very and be kind to the planet and everything, and everybody says, well, wait a minute, no way, this guy's crazy because I have to go to my job, I have to take the children to the school, I have to do, those are the social conditions we're talking about. If I come on the same television on the night before the marathon in Eindhoven with 200,000 visitors and 20,000 people running, and I ask the people to do a favor and not go to town by car because the air pollution will affect the sport prestige, the prestige of the people, and then suddenly I get support, because the social conditions, the people actually do have empathy with the supporters, and it doesn't touch their own social conditions anymore. So indeed, it is extremely complex to get minor changes in the social conditions of the people to get their behavior somehow adjusted. What you said, Marian, is very important, that the values actually connect to the people because they can personalize those values. If you talk about health, we don't know really what health is. We tend to focus on the non-existence of sickness. If we're not sick, we think we are healthy. But health from a non-stress point of view, emotional health, spiritual health, and all these kind of things are kind of unknown and unaddressed type of issues. So when we talk about health, we open up a complexity of understanding what it really is in our behavior and the way we should maybe organize our society. One of the things that I see here coming into this discussion is that one of the problems is the unpersonality of living in cities, the personality of living in villages, like Mahendra was saying in Bali, those villages and the elders and the people actually interacting and even disputing certain laws or suggestions of governance because they're not relevant or they're not good enough or whatever. That is because of the connectedness in those regions. And we are trying, yesterday I had a meeting to try to actually do these kind of things in cities too, get neighborhoods to form self-supportive type of activities. But it's extremely complex because those big cities have grown out of proportion by actually exactly doing the opposite. I'm sorry, Amanda had raised his hand. He's probably wanted to interact with what I've just said.
I was asking for Marian for permission. I wasn't.
Yes.
Sorry. She's in the chair. Do I have your permission? Because you are so right, Jean-Paul. Health is beyond the body. And when you talk of mental health, in the last 1 month, more people committed suicide in Japan than all the people that died from COVID-19 in 1 month. And most of them were
also here.
Yeah, yeah. Shall we go back? We shared a lot of perspectives about the first question, to come to action. How can we come to actions? And there are some suggestions made, but In fact, Mahendra, you also said there are some subjects that you can take, and from that point, make a plan for action. I'm taking it back to 3 points. You discussed it already with Jean-Paul, I understood a little bit. The 3 points were that you would write down about the city of tomorrow, how that functions, so it can be taken by other villages. That was what Mahendra supposed. And the second one was School of Life. And the third one was about drawing all the people living on this planet to all the declarations of the United Nations to make that, if I understood it well, Mahendra, that we could bring that more to the people. Now it's over there, it's made above the heads, and make it more to them. Was that right, Mahendra, or do I mix up things?
Yeah.
No.
Just a correction. The United Nations can only do what its member nations tell it to do. So don't blame the United Nations. It's the members of this world, the countries, the powerful countries that are dictating, and that's what's happening. Because the UN can do zero, and always has done zero unless somebody allows them to do something. So it's not the UN, but it's part of the world.
Yeah. But perhaps there needs to make a decision about what team we are going to work out on, which road are we going to travel now.
Right. Yeah.
That feels to me. And Jaime, you wanted to say something?
I just wanted to react very briefly to what Mahendra just said. Yeah, I do agree, but in my opinion, and I have had this opinion for a long time, UN has to be reinforced. I mean, I don't know what the others think, but I think that common problems that we have in the world, like global warming and climate change, pandemics, and these kind of things, poverty, of course, need a stronger perspective uh, from a supranational form of government. And the best option for me would be to strengthen UN. But that's a different thing. That's a different idea, but that could help, I think.
Jean-Paul?
I agree with Mahendra, and Bibiana said it just a minute ago. Actually, all those people sitting there in those United Nations and everything are people just like us, and they are many times very much engaged within a particular way of format of thinking and handling. Um, what we can do and what we've done here in Eindhoven is we gave the people a choice to participate in something that was beyond their format, but that did touch their personal type of vision and also their need. They suddenly found that they needed to transform certain parts of their organization to be actually to work together on, for instance, the issue of a healthy city. How do you work on a healthy city? Never, ever anybody has been talking about a healthy city. What does that mean? What does that mean from a construction perspective, a social cohesion perspective, a food perspective, those kind of things? So if you inject in the minds of the people a challenge like that, and people start thinking about that from their own perspective, their children, and then in the end, suddenly we come to discussions about how do we deal with energy? Obviously, there will be a power play then, because there are people in the old field which have very important interests in the old way of thinking. But by introducing this new way of thinking and the challenges that we have, we also have the possibility to actually dispute the way of thinking of the others. When I started again with the air quality point thing, we did a co-creation session, including the city council people. And there was one councillor who did not want to put in a signature because he says, that's not our problem. We should leave it to the Hague. One single person tried to inhibit our co-creation process. And then we just said, in a democracy like we are having here, that one person cannot be on the rock of the apes doing these kind of things. He has to really put that signature, and we put a fund around that person, even in his own political party, to actually get that signature going and get up. But it is a process of doing what we've been doing. We have to support Mahendra and Jojo with the lawmaking that is according to our current perspective of what our planetary balance is and what our Earth Odyssey is. We have to support these people. We have to support them with our local organization, but we also have to support the people who are willing with a positive invitation to something that they have never heard before. And I remember the reaction 10 years ago. They said, "What is this? Is the world upside down?" When I said, "I want to live in a healthy city," the people in government said, "This is the world upside down." The people in national government felt criticized. It says, "You are disputing our policy." And I said, "Yes. Why shouldn't I? We're still living in the highest polluted region of Northwest Europe." And now they are one of the most strongest partners in the process, which is they have to suddenly find their own emotions on. Maybe the first step is always that they fear it, that they fear that they are losing control and everything. But then when you respect their position, then you invite them to actually change their mentality and become supportive, and they are authorized in their position. So it's extremely delicate, these kind of things, but we do have to work it out on a human perspective.
And from your perspective, I think that you stand for that we have to do it locally. That in a way you want to spread it around the world, but we have to do it locally so that people can go through that process. And we can't take it out to make it very big. Yeah, we want to spread it, but not in that way. That is what I feel now. Jasmine, you raised your hand.
I did. I had a question as I was listening. Are we going to base what we're doing on values? Values are subjective. Everybody has a different value. Without looking at, people will go against their value if it fulfills their social need or their condition. So, which is why there are many people that have a value, but their actions do not adhere to that value. Because actually, if people were going for their values, lots of people have good values. And if every of their actions were towards that, we wouldn't be where we are anyway. So I think language is important. If you are going forward, there needs to be an understanding or some sort of clarity and simplicity in the message. So I think somebody mentioned that earlier. I mean, I really love the cartoon. There has to be some sort of visualization, some sort of altering the language so it's understandable to everybody. And often images and pictures are a good way to do that, even if if we're looking at raising awareness, people might raise a question to that. So I guess an understanding of if there is a desire to move forward, what does that look like? And are values really the best way to help people change perspectives?
Thank you. Jaime, you had your hand up.
Yes, just I do like a lot strategic planning, these kind of things. I liked the matrix or this kind of thing that Heiner shared a moment ago. And in my opinion, my view, that kind of planning would help a lot. If I would have to imagine a way of approaching this, I would divide into, yes, priorities, actors, see, and even as you said, even I would add the dimension of going from local to global. Yeah. So in a way, how to dissect different strategies, different actions that could have coherence within an integral strategy. Yes. And from that point, I would start to think about particularly things that we could do. And when you say how can we take action, I think that, in my opinion, a thing that we could do is to use the actions that are already there to present them as examples that can be replicated, as they mentioned, as their, I think they mentioned it as their first priority, to use, for example, Jean Paul's Eindhoven example on how things can be done different, these kind of things, and to spread that in a way that could touch that could reach as many possible people, and from that point we can start to co-create things, to increase awareness and this kind of thing.
Okay, thank you. Jean-Paul, you had raised your hand.
Yes, yes, I did. I wanted to react to Jasmine, but I also want to wish Mahendra good night, because it's 30 minutes into the next day for him, and I can imagine you have a lot of things to do tomorrow too. Thank you also for your remark, Mahendra, that no, I'm not concentrated on Eindhoven, certainly not, because one of the problems that I have in Eindhoven is that politics is so unreliable that if I concentrate only on one city, I will be blown away very fast because of political interchanges and everything and fluctuations. I have to spread my wings, and I did that already many years ago, and I'm working with various cities, so that if I can't reach a point here, I can reach a point somewhere else and then connect it again and then build it up like that. So politics is often one of the biggest problems that we have. But indeed, Jasmine, yeah, there are values and values. If we talk about sustainocracy, we talk about 5 values. And those values are not only for human beings, that's for just about every living species. Other values, of course, yeah, laziness. Oh, I take my children to the school with the car because I'm just too lazy to walk or to go by bicycle. Those kind of values that people actually attribute to themselves, they are very, very difficult indeed to break through. The easiness to go to the supermarket rather than produce your own food, or to connect to the local farmers and everything, it's extremely difficult. And we are demanding certain difficulty to people, and people have difficulty doing that. Indeed, yes, those values, they are very difficult to eradicate, indeed. I agree. But the values like health, they're undisputable. If we don't have health, we are unhealthy and we die prematurely, not individually only, as a species we do.
And I think, yeah, Mahendra,
Mahendra
you
wants
want
to
to leave. Yes, please, go ahead.
I leave, but with only one comment to Jean-Paul. Political constraints, you elected them, you're in a democracy. So let's not always blame the politicians for not doing the right thing. The power to change is in our hands, to mobilize the people. I think on that note, arrivederci.
Bye, thank you. Thank you.
It is
Yeah,
really a pity that you are leaving.
he's gone already.
It's a strange world. But as I started speaking, I will continue. I think we have to make sure what we are talking about. Actions are local. Effects are regional, national, global. And this whole world of what is local, what is regional, we coined 30 years ago glocal, to show it in a reference space parallel to ours. Because this non-locality, like fields, many things we as modern people, through the waves and the bandwidths we are confronted with, have effects across scales with immense proportions and consequences. And I was just trying to show you this in 1 minute. Can you see it?
A little bit. It's a little bit.
It's bad quality, but
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
tried in our German chancery to make an exhibition. What is system Earth? What is local? What is regional? What is global? What is short term? What is long term? And what is in which sector? And how is the natural, the life sciences and humanities connected? And we had lots of fight because everybody is thinking for himself and not taking on a broader perspective. And that's why I was building it to really negotiate local, but also sectorial issues and temporal issues. And it all involved in a big fight over 4 months, because it was challenges to science and politics. It was in our German chancellery with the White House conference, visiting and influencing, I must say, that we couldn't have a grid only. We have to come to other ways of representing, and not just in systems, but concrete, built, immersive models, augmented models. But this was not the term we used 30 years ago. I just wanted to tell you, I'm fully with you, and all this is available. I called it later a cognitive panorama. And if we really wanting to make sure what we are talking about, to really say we are addressing it now on the national level or on the regional, and explaining by region, I mean continents. I don't mean regions within Germany. Then we have a chance to really make the broader step. And that we did with school children, making no maps like the Braille dot alphabet for the blind people, to really go much further. I just wanted to add that and make it clear. I'm not going to give you this presentation, but this presentation we did with all system scientists, with Leibniz and the castle in Hanover, where he worked 200 years ago. And it was not published, even when Open University and Club of Rome and Volkswagen Foundation was involved. They called it an inquiry, and they couldn't agree on it, so they've been hiding it. This is what's happening. We call it in German Giftschrank, poison drawer for everything which is out of the box.
Yeah, there is a question if you could share that still your presentation, so we can put it in our minds and think about it.
Yes, I will
Yeah.
present sometimes just this evolvement of cognitive spaces and cognitive panorama, like we have it in the Encyclopedia World Problem and Human Potential. All this is available on SlideShare, but if I give you the consciousness and the evolutionary aspect of that, then I could point you to 2 presentations on John Gebser and on education, which are available also in English and on video. Then we could maybe start from there, and everybody looks at it when he has time. So I put it in the chat box.
In the chat box or on mail? Because the chat box will be gone later, or somebody has to save it.
Yes, that is always a problem.
Yeah, so I think
I can share the link in an email to you.
yeah, I think that I like that. Yeah, yeah.
But everybody can save the chat, huh? Everybody can.
Yeah, that's true.
But I need to prepare it, and email is much better, because I might even want to attach a document.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're on the phone, I can't save a chat from the phone.
Yeah, okay, then we do it. Yes,
Also,
Svi.
just want to say goodbye. Goodbye, everybody.
Okay.
I'm sorry to go.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Stacy. Svi, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, one last thing. I mean, I appreciate very much the wisdom of all of you. I mean, the level and stages of your thinkings are going up and up from one meeting to another, and I just salute. But I mean, I thought about a new idea how to inform maybe more people about our action or what we are doing. Maybe, I don't know much of them, but maybe it is possible to contact one of the Nobel Prizes person who has something to do with education, values, society, climate, poverty, international issues that I mean, the world is coping with them. I think his voice might be very helpful because it will be spreaded all over the world in many languages. And yeah, that's my new idea. I mean, if I may say, after Einar and Mahendra talking.
Yeah, thank you. Of course, all ideas are welcome, I think. And Heiner, what would you like to add?
There is only one level where you can, or how you can approach all these Nobel laureates. It is through the meeting of all the peace laureates, because the peace laureates really have this broader vision and are not just in their discipline of chemistry or whatever. I was at various of these meetings, and there's also a little video about this on how through the traditional thinking we can widen our horizons. I am happy that we are reaching this level and stage here. And also Einstein has been used this with all the peace laureates and all the concerned scientists to really give an independent voice. I have a meeting with the German associations of concerned scientists right now, so I have to leave. I have to prepare something before 18 hours today. But I'm a member of this Vereinigung Deutscher Wissenschaftler, where we try to do that. And we do through a new general manager, Maria, a lot of interesting things if you speak German. Otherwise, all these bodies are in Toronto. And there we are, as a Council on Global Issues, working for 25 years on these matters. So I do this secretary work of the Council of Global Issues. Just find some of these links and we can focus a little bit more, because we shouldn't reinvent the wheels.
That's sure, for sure. Okay, thank you, and we are looking forward for your contribution in the mail and further on. And I want to leave too. We had in the beginning, Svi mentioned some actions we could do. I will send them to you, Jean-Paul, the mail. I know, take notice of them. And yeah, it's also about directing our attention to possibilities, not to the limitations, but to the possibilities. And it's very difficult with all the knowledge we have to come to simple actions. What can we do that local? So let's contemplate that and find a kind of plan or some simpler actions.
Lovely. Marion, may I thank you very much for moderating today. I think it has been a very positive experience to have maybe also some rotation in moderation in this group. We all know what it's all about. We have gotten to know each other very much more intimately over the last month. We don't have to explain each other things, but the act of moderating and the style of moderating of each of us may be refreshing also. So first of all, Marion, you actually, as we say, you actually broken the ice to this out of circumstances. If everybody agrees, then I would love to see next week or something that somebody, one of the group, actually stands up and does the moderation next week. And we take it a step further.
Nice idea. Thank you all.
Thank you,
See you
Marion.
next week.
No,
Bye.
Take
I
care.
have one.
Bye, Marion. Thank you.
I have only one last point. It's a confessional. I had a session before with Mahendra and Bibiana, and I really want to make sure Bibiana is meeting our friends in Brazil. But as Ukpema might be around. Ukpema, are you around? Maybe you can briefly exchange yourself with Bibiana. Is that possible? Just 5 minutes?
That's possible.
Because I think it's very nice. Bibiana is, I think, first in our group. And she was, how do you say, kidnapped, shanghaied from my room to your room, Jean-Paul. And I think we have meetings all at 6, but maybe, Bibi, can you introduce yourself? And maybe we even can get Ukpema on deck. She's still in the engine room, I believe.
Thank
Ukpema?
you very much. Before everything else, thank you very much for having me, guys. It's a breath of fresh air. I think on the opposite direction, all these conversations that I've been having with Heiner show me the concern of the generations that came before me, and I'm used to the concerns of my generation and the ones that I'm more related to the youth and the adults, right? So I see myself as trying to bridge, because we have the same intention and we have very different ways. I loved what Jasmine said about values and how subjective they are, because intentions are the same. We have very similar intentions in our core, and then it turns down into politics and how to execute them, and then we become completely different, and we have the situations that we are having now in the world. Anyhow, besides trying to bridge that, I really learn from you guys and to be able to be part of this transformation. And I feel honored and I admire you guys for putting all this effort into trying to make a transformation that has to be so radical and so fast. Because like I haven't started the production of baby humans yet, but I will. And I have that concern that drives me. You guys possibly don't, or many of you don't have that concern anymore, and still you're on the fight, and that's lovely. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Mohaina, does that bridge with Ukpema? You have enough to actually connect there?
I do, and I thank you, Bibiana, thank you, everyone. As an ambassador for peace, and among other things, I have been involved in, and I'm still involved in so many worthy causes. And one thing I want to let us know is that there is power in individual and collective action. From my experience, I've come to realize that we don't really need to wait for we don't really need to wait for people to identify what we're doing. Once we just take action, even as an individual, taking an action today, even in your own personal capacity space, you're able to achieve much. I've had this experience when I was organizing my summit, the Peace Agenda Summit, and other things. We can be resourceful with little or no resource. And let's just do something. Let's get out there and do something. We have the will, we have the motivation. And once we begin, we will be amazed at what we can achieve. So I am so happy with the collaboration and the unity that we share in this platform. And I'm confident that when we continue with this motivation, we'll be able to achieve what we really crave. Thank you.
Magic.
There is one thing that has been in my heart about this, and it's the word we, because we've been talking about action and action and action, and we do have a lot of power individually, but sometimes we feel powerless as individuals. But when we are in a group like this, and then we say we are doing something, it becomes something more, I don't know, for me at least. So I think this we needs to be recognized. This is a group, this is a collective, this is a whatever, but this is a we that's doing something. And this is powerful.
It's very nice that you say that, Viviana. It reminds me of a change of words. You know, if you change the I of illness is we, then becomes wellness. All right, and that is what we are doing here. We go from I to we, and the we is not only us as human beings, but also our relationship with our natural environment. Heiner.
I learned yesterday night that the meaning is in the timbre, in the voice, and not in the words. But if you want to bring polyaesthetic, all these senses together, then maybe you follow a little bit what I did with these young people in our cognitive panorama, build models, and they came to the wording of worm's eye, fish eye, bird's eye, group eye, generation eye, or concretely me model, you model, they model, other models. So all this wording was somehow created by young people. And through someone I like very much, Anthony Judge, he said this space is for pointers to possibilities. So that's actually what was just asked. We need these pointers to options and possibilities.
Right.
No, next time I want to know who Jasmine Jill is, but maybe you can share the contacts. I have to leave now. It was
Okay,
a pleasure, and
thank you.
I think you will all connect in the end.
That's right. One more thing is about this weekend. This weekend we're going to have the planetary balance uh, community. It is going to, there's just about 100 people connecting onto a Zoom platform, Planetary Balance, talking about complex science. I don't know if you're aware about that or you're involved, Bibiana. It's then I think that would be a place for you also to be if you have a possibility. That is for everybody. I understood that Chaim is going to write himself down. If Zvi, I don't know if you're going to be listening into it. I've not seen all the names yet on the list, but anyway, it would be great because I think if we get complex science, also get them out of there. Oh wow, we get a visitor from India now, Anand. God, that's interesting. When we are closing off, he's probably had some confusion, but let's say hello. Hello, Anand. Anyway, it's you know, I will send out the email to you, Bibiana, if you haven't had it yet, and then you can have a look at it for yourself. Okay.
Thank you very much for the invitation and for the welcoming, for everything.
Okay, and thank you for your email, because then I can put it on the list and keep you at least informed about what we are doing, and then you make up your own mind if you want to be part of it, if you have a chance or anything. That's, yeah.
Okay, thank you for the evening. It was excellent, and we'll meet next week.
We certainly will. Okay, and you make up your own mind. Who is going to be the one in going to moderate? Let's make it a democratic process. It would be nice to have women doing this because of the energy and the power of the female strength here. Anand God is he is coming in from India. We met in 2012. Anand, can you hear us and can you introduce yourself briefly? Because we are actually finishing the meeting now. So, but it's very nice that you managed to connect.
Hi, Jean. Good evening to you and good evening, everybody. Apologies for joining quite late. I've been tied up with a few things which I could not avoid. But it is always a pleasure to connect with you, Jean. Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah, perfectly.
All right, that's great. So, hi, folks. Good evening once again. My name is Anand Garg. I'm based in Mumbai, in India, and I have been known to Jean for the last about 6-7 years now. and we have exchanged notes about Sustainocracy and some of the other solutions that have been developed by him, and how that agenda could be taken forward in India. But before that, a little bit about myself. I've had a very diversified corporate journey in things like telecom infrastructure, healthcare, lubricants, and a few other industries in India as well as in Africa and Middle East. In terms of sustainocracy and the related solutions, I personally feel that after having gone through the documents and papers that Jean and team have prepared, there is a good appetite for this, not only in India, but I guess in all the geographies, looking at the climate agenda and the growing menace of pollution and now the virus and things like that. So urbanization is one. I think sustainability is completely another. And the emphasis of Gene and his team has been on sustainability and better living. And I intend to continue to be engaged in this. And of course, we need to find a way as to how could we get some traction in India. I've had some discussions, but more on this later. Gene, over to you.
All right. Well, thank you, Anand. It's as I said before, it's very nice that you actually join now, and hopefully you can make it next week and participate in the entire group here. We are looking forward to create actions together. And in India, you in Mumbai itself, you have extreme challenges, and not only in entire India but also in Mumbai. So indeed, it would be nice if we can support you with that, and if we can connect with that, and that you can actually develop certain things. We can get inspired also by what you are doing, but also our Dr. Swati with a television program and everything. Those type of elements in India are very inspirational also for all of us. So this interaction will be extremely valuable. So even though it's a very short moment to see actually your face again after so many years, then what we do is on a weekly basis, we come back to each other and we see if we can inspire each other, but also actually create the pillars of our new society, which is much more respectful towards human beings and towards our planet. Okay. So
Sure, Gene. I will make it a point to be a part of this next week onwards.
Beautiful. Have you also heard about the event this weekend, which is going to be which is going to happen, which a lot of complex scientists and everything come together, and I'm one of the starters of this Congress to actually get the people into some kind of a mindset to see if they can actually participate in this. If you want, I sent you also this invitation so that you can consider it for yourself if you want to be part of that. And yeah, well, I look forward and maybe to see you there also.
Sure.
Yeah.
Please send it to me. Please do send.
Okay, and then one stage, I hope you will be able to meet and talk to each of the people here and get their backgrounds also for you, so that you, yeah, it is relevant for you to see what kind of potential that we have here together.
Sure. That'll be a pleasure. I look forward to that.
All right, beautiful. And okay, Jasmine is asking a question here. Did we all have the link? I did send a link about 10 days ago, I think, to the group. But I will send it again. And so don't worry about it.
Or it's in my email somewhere.
Okay. Yeah,
So many emails.
That's why I sent every week. I send a reminder email with including the link, because it's like I know it by myself. You know, it's like terrible to find links in the mess of emails and everything that we keep, especially if we have so many Zooms and Teams and whatever kind of sessions. It is like, wow, how do we get this structured in a way that we actually can be present there? and not miss out where we want to be. Anyway, so if you haven't had it before, then it's my fault, because then I may have not or whatever included you in the list. But it's my commitment now that when we close off here, I will immediately take care of it. That
I mean, you
have
might have done it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. It's like, we'll see. But don't worry about it, because you will have it again.
Maybe we could do a Google Drive, like a space where all the documents are, and then we all have the link to that drive, because with numerous emails, I have so many projects. And also when we share in this space on a virtual board,
That's a beautiful.
so then we can see it and then have the link to this collective space in a drive and on a virtual board, because I don't want any more emails.
Yeah.
Too many.
I think it's a beautiful suggestion. Yes. Let's talk about it next week and maybe actually set it up and see how we manage it. All right. Well, then, first of all, thank you, everybody, for joining us today and for the very inspirational discussion we've had for 2 hours now, and also the moderation of Marion, who took over. Beautiful. Also, Bibiana, to welcome you as a newcomer here. Very great to have a link with our young generations, which is absolutely necessary. Okay, we hope to, but that is also Jasmine, everybody. But I think everybody is younger than I am here. So you're all for me in connection to the younger generations. So I wish you all a very nice morning in Mexico, evening in India, and where everybody else, Luxembourg and the UK and all that. That's okay. And America, Ukraine is in America. So. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Go well. Thank you.
Paul. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Mhm.